All right, let's dive right in to another deep dive with, well, this time we're going international.
Ooh, exciting.
Yeah, with a look at international project management. You, our wonderful listener, you sent us a business textbook chapter on the topic, and I gotta say, it is dense.
It is a beast.
It's a beast. So our mission today is to break it down.
Yeah.
Make it digestible, give you the stuff you really need to know to manage projects on a global scale.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what the chapter does is it kind of starts by reminding us that all these projects, they're like pop-up restaurants.
Yeah.
You know, like they have a very clear start and a very clear finish.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah. But what people kind of forget about is that they have this really unique blend of like very specific goals, but also this like inherent uncertainty.
Yeah, always the possibility something could go wrong.
Exactly. And that's where risk comes into play, right?
Okay, so we got this temporary setup. We have a goal in mind.
Right.
But at the same time, things could go wrong along the way. I imagine those risks are even more, I don't know, magnified when you're talking about international projects.
For sure. I mean, so managing those risks is just so crucial. And that all starts with having the right approach, right? So the chapter kind of dives into this whole toolbox of different project management methodologies.
Like picking the right tool from the toolbox, depending on what you're trying to build.
Exactly.
So what do we got in this toolbox?
Well, we've got the classic waterfall method, you know, which is a linear approach.
Okay.
It's really ideal for projects where like you have a pretty clear roadmap and the requirements aren't going to change much.
So something like constructing a skyscraper.
That's a great example.
Or you've got to lay the foundation before you can start building up.
Exactly. Yeah. And speaking of skyscrapers,
Yeah.
you know, imagine if you were building the tallest one in the world.
Oh, wow.
You would probably want to use something like the critical path method or CPM. So CPM basically helps you identify which tasks are absolutely critical and how they all depend on each other.
So it all stays on track.
Yeah, because if there's any delays in those critical tasks,
Yeah.
the whole project could just like fall apart like dominoes, you know?
Wow, that is high stakes.
Yeah,
It's like a giant puzzle, but it's all meticulously planned out in advance.
it really is.
But what about those projects where maybe the path isn't so clear, maybe things change along the way.
Right.
You have to adapt.
Yeah, that's where those agile methodologies really shine,
Okay.
you know, because they're all about flexibility and iteration, which is like perfect for projects where the requirements might change.
Like software development.
Yeah, exactly.
You're constantly getting feedback.
Right. You got to be able to adjust.
You're iterating.
Exactly. And even within Agile, you know, you've got things like Scrum, which is known for these like short bursts of development that are called sprints.
Okay, so it's like instead of trying to climb the whole mountain at once, you're breaking it down into these like smaller, more manageable climbs.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, it makes it less overwhelming. And the cool thing about Scrum is the teams are self-managing, so they have a lot of autonomy and accountability.
Wait, so Scrum, isn't that the one where there's like no project manager? Everyone just kind of figures it out on their own?
It's not quite like that.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, there isn't one single designated project manager, but you still need some kind of leadership, some direction.
Okay.
You know, very collaborative.
Right.
Scrum teams have to have really clear communication, and everyone needs to be on the same page about what they're trying to achieve.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So waterfall, agile, Scrum, we've got quite the toolbox going.
Oh, and there's more.
Oh, there's more. All right, lay it on me.
So there's also Prince2, which stands for Projects in Controlled Environments.
Okay.
It's very structured.
Prince2, that sounds very official.
It is. It originated in the UK.
Okay.
It emphasizes like really detailed planning and really tight control.
I bet government agencies love Prince2.
They do.
It sounds like their jam.
It is, yeah. So think about like massive IT implementations or like huge infrastructure projects where you really don't want any surprises.
Yeah, high stakes stuff.
Yeah, Prince2 kind of gives you that framework.
Because one small deviation from the plan
Right.
could have huge consequences.
Exactly.
Speaking of things that can have huge consequences, the textbook also talks about like sustainability-focused methodologies, right? It feels like everybody's talking about sustainability these days.
They are, and for good reason.
Yeah.
And that's where PRISM comes in, or Projects Integrating Sustainable Methods, which is a mouthful.
It is a mouthful.
But basically, it's all about making sure that you're thinking about the environment every step of the way.
So it's not just about finishing the project on time and within budget,
Right.
Also how it impacts the planet.
Exactly.
Okay, so like imagine a construction project, a
Yeah.
big one,
Mm-hmm.
and they're using PRISM, so maybe they're using recycled materials.
They might be.
Or renewable energy.
Yeah.
Thinking about how to minimize waste.
Absolutely.
Really considering the impact on the surrounding ecosystem.
Right, the long-term impact, yeah.
It's a whole other layer to the project, isn't it?
It is.
Okay, so we've got this toolbox of methodologies, but then, if you're taking these methodologies and applying them to international projects, that's when things get
tricky.
That's when things get really interesting.
Yes.
What are some of the things that make these projects just, uniquely demanding?
Yeah. So imagine you're trying to launch this really cool new product.
Okay.
In a country where the culture is totally different from yours.
Okay, I'm imagining it.
So you might have this brilliant marketing campaign that totally kills it in your home market.
Right.
But then it just completely flops in this new country.
Because maybe they don't get the humor. Or they find it offensive.
It could be, yeah.
Oh, I can imagine some marketing mishaps for sure.
Oh, yeah, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
So those little cultural nuances, they can really make or break a project.
It's like a minefield.
It kind of is.
Of potential faux pas.
Exactly. So understanding those nuances and being sensitive to different communication styles is just essential.
So, how do you navigate that? Do you have to become an expert in every culture you're working with?
That would be impossible, right?
Yeah.
But I think what you can do is develop a kind of cultural sensitivity and awareness.
Right.
So being open to different perspectives, asking questions, and being willing to adapt. So for example, in some cultures, it's super disrespectful to directly disagree with your boss.
Oh, interesting.
So instead of saying no, you might say something like, I'll think about that, or I need to gather some more information.
Yeah, I can see that.
So it's
almost like learning a new language, but it is. It's like the language of customs and etiquette.
Exactly. And it's not just about trying to avoid offending people, you know?
Right.
It's about building genuine connections and trust.
Oh, for sure.
When you demonstrate respect for another culture.
Yeah.
You're showing respect for the people you're working with.
It's about building bridges, not walls.
Exactly.
So cultural differences, that's a big one.
Huge.
What else makes these international projects so tricky?
Well, those risks we talked about?
Yeah.
Those get amplified when you go international.
For sure.
The textbook kind of points to a few key factors.
The PESTEL factors, right? Political, economic, social, technological, environmental, legal.
All of them.
Every country has a different landscape.
They do.
When it comes to all of those factors.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then there's CAGE, which is...
CAGE? What's a CAGE?
Yeah, it's cultural, administrative, geographic, and economic distances.
Okay.
So, for instance, if you're working with a team in a country that has a totally different legal system.
Yeah.
You've got to factor that into your contracts and your agreements.
For sure. Yeah. Oh, and even just something as seemingly simple as time zones can become a huge nightmare, can it?
It can.
Oh, I've had projects where we're constantly having meetings at
crazy hours.
2 a.m.
Yeah.
8 p.m.
It's exhausting.
Just to accommodate everybody in different parts of the world.
Right. It's a logistical nightmare.
It is.
But the good news is
technology
can really help us bridge those gaps,
Oh, yeah.
Video conferencing and project management software, instant messaging.
It's all made for this.
It really is.
To keep us all connected, no matter where we are.
Exactly.
But it's not a magic bullet, is it?
It's not, no.
Technology can only take us so far.
Yeah. You still need clear communication,
right?
A willingness to be flexible, and that deep understanding of the cultural context we were talking about.
Yeah, it all comes back to that, doesn't it?
It really does, because, for example, some cultures are totally comfortable with that, asynchronous communication.
Okay.
Sending an email.
Right.
And waiting for a response.
Right.
But other cultures...
they want that instant back and forth.
They want to talk now.
Okay. So you might be sending what you think is, a simple email.
Yeah.
But on the other end, they're waiting for a phone call.
Exactly.
So it's actually creating delays.
Right.
And you don't even realize it.
Yeah. And speaking of communication.
Okay.
One of the biggest challenges in international projects is managing expectations.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you've got people from all these different backgrounds working together, they might have different ideas about their roles, their responsibilities, deadlines,
Right. Even what success looks like
Exactly.
could be totally different depending on where you are.
Right. So what's considered on time in one culture might be late in another.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good example.
So you have to establish those expectations right up front.
Clear as day.
Clear as day.
No room for ambiguity.
Yeah. Yeah. Having really clear goals and roles and responsibilities and those communication protocols we were talking about, that's all essential.
Right.
But even then, things are going to go wrong.
Yeah, things are going to go wrong. I think that's the one guarantee in all of this, right? No plan survives first contact.
It's so true.
With reality.
Yeah,
especially when you've got so many different moving pieces, all these different cultural contexts.
Exactly. That's why having a solid risk management plan is so important.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just about identifying what could go wrong. It's about having those strategies in place.
To mitigate the risks.
To mitigate, exactly. It's like having a backup plan.
You need a plan B.
Yeah.
And maybe even a plan C and a plan D.
Sometimes you do.
Right. And the textbook talks about 4 main approaches.
Yeah.
To mitigating risk. There's avoidance, acceptance, transfer, and absorption.
Right. Think of it like this. You're planning that product launch in a new market, and you realize there's a risk that local regulations might change.
Okay, so there's a potential curveball coming our way.
Yeah, like a political curveball.
How do you handle that?
Well, one option is avoidance.
Okay.
Right, maybe you just delay the launch until things are a little more stable.
Okay.
Or maybe you launch in a different market altogether.
Right.
Sometimes it's better to just step back.
Yeah, discretion is the better part of valor, they say.
That's right.
But what if avoidance isn't an option?
Right.
What if you've already sunk a bunch of money into this particular market?
Right, you've got to launch there.
You've got to launch.
Well, then you might consider acceptance.
Okay.
So you acknowledge the risk, you're not ignoring it, but you kind of plan for the potential consequences.
Right, so maybe you set aside some contingency funds.
You could.
Just in case you need to make some adjustments.
Yeah.
Or you build in some flexibility to your marketing campaign.
Exactly.
So you can pivot.
You can adapt.
If things do change.
Exactly.
So it's not about burying your head in the sand, but it's about
being realistic.
Being realistic and having a plan.
Yeah.
For if it does happen.
Exactly.
Okay, I like it. What else?
Well, sometimes the best way to mitigate risk is actually to transfer it.
Okay, so what does that look like?
So that could be something like taking out insurance to cover potential losses, or maybe outsourcing certain parts of the project to specialists who are better equipped to handle those risks.
So if I'm worried about currency fluctuations messing with my budget, I might bring in a financial firm.
Exactly.
That specializes in international transactions.
Exactly. They know how to handle that.
They've got me covered.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. So avoidance, acceptance, transfer, and what was the last one?
Absorption, right?
Yeah. So that's basically saying, okay, we accept the risk.
Yeah.
But we're going to do everything we can
to minimize the impact.
To soften the blow.
Yeah.
If it does happen.
Yeah. So going back to that product launch.
Okay.
Maybe you build some redundancy into your supply chain.
Okay.
So that if one supplier is affected by those regulatory changes.
Yeah.
You've got other suppliers who can step in.
Okay. So it's having that backup.
Yeah.
Having that fallback option.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about being prepared.
Yeah, being prepared for the what ifs.
Yeah, for the what ifs.
Which is what risk management is all about, right?
It really is.
And that's where risk profiling comes in, right?
That's right.
What is risk profiling?
So imagine creating this risk fingerprint for your project.
Okay.
It helps you figure out what the potential risks are early on.
Yeah.
And how likely they are to happen.
Right.
And how bad they could be.
How big of an impact.
Yeah, the textbook talks about this framework that looks at 5 main areas.
Yeah.
External context, organizational history, internal context, change content, and change process.
Okay, so five different fingerprints to look at.
Yeah.
Let's break those down a little bit.
Okay.
Starting with external context. What does that cover?
So external context is all about those factors that are kind of outside of your control.
Okay.
But they could still impact your project.
Right.
So think back to Pestel and Cage.
Oh.
The political situation, the economy, the social norms, all that stuff.
The whole shebang?
Yeah, the whole shebang.
Okay.
That's the landscape you're working in.
So in our product launch example, external context would be things like
how stable is the government?
Yeah.
How strong is the economy?
What are the cultural values of that country?
Right, because understanding that external context helps you like anticipate potential challenges.
They'd make more informed decisions.
Exactly.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, so that's external context. What about organizational history?
So this one is all about learning from past experience.
Okay.
So has your organization done similar projects before?
Right.
What were the challenges?
Yeah, did they go well? Did they not go so well?
What did you learn?
What did you learn?
By looking at your organizational history, you can identify patterns and potential pitfalls that might come up again.
So it's like almost like a crystal ball, but it's not magic. It's
data.
It's data.
It's experience.
It's experience.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, what about internal context?
So internal context is all about how things work on the inside of your organization.
Okay.
So like the company culture, the communication style, how decisions are made, how much risk are people comfortable with.
So if you're a company that's really hierarchical and doesn't like to take a lot of risks,
Yeah.
you're probably going to approach an international project very differently than a company that's a little more agile, a
Absolutely.
little more loosey-goosey.
Right, because understanding that internal context
Right.
helps you assess your own strengths and weaknesses
Right. So it's not just about understanding
and how those might play into the project.
the world around you.
Yeah.
It's about understanding yourself as well.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm with you. Change content.
All right, so change content is all about the project itself.
Okay.
So like, how big is it? How complex is it? How innovative is it? Are the goals and requirements super clear?
So in our product launch example,
Yeah.
the change content would be
Like, how complicated is the product?
right.
How big is the market you're trying to reach?
How new and innovative
Yeah, exactly.
is this product?
Right, because, the more complex and the more innovative the project,
Yeah.
the higher the risk.
Higher the risk.
Yeah, it's like the difference between baking a cake and constructing a wedding cake.
Okay, I like that. I like that.
The level of complexity really dictates how likely things are to go wrong.
All right, so we're assessing the cake recipe. And last but not least, we've got change process.
Right, so a change process is all about how the project is managed.
Okay.
So are the roles and responsibilities really clearly defined?
Yeah.
Is there a good communication plan in place? Is there a system for tracking progress and spotting potential problems early on? Is there buy-in from the stakeholders?
So you need the systems in place
Yeah.
and the processes
Yeah.
to manage this thing effectively.
And it's about making sure that everyone involved understands the plan
Right.
and their role.
And how their piece fits into the larger puzzle.
Exactly.
Wow. That's a lot to consider. It's like, I don't know, it's like conducting an orchestra.
It really
You've
is.
got all these different instruments playing their parts, but it all has to come together
In harmony.
in harmony to
Yeah.
create that beautiful music.
Exactly. And just like an orchestra needs a conductor,
Yeah.
you need a skilled project manager to
Yeah.
keep everything on track and make sure everyone is, playing their part.
So we've talked about all the challenges, the different tools in the toolbox, the things that make it uniquely demanding.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, what about the upside? I mean, there's got to be some amazing perks to make it worth all this effort.
Well, there are so many.
Okay, tell me more.
I mean, first of all, think about all the exposure to different ideas, different perspectives.
Yeah.
When you bring together people from all these different backgrounds,
Yeah.
you just unlock this amazing creativity.
Right. Because everyone brings their unique experiences to the table.
And that leads to innovation that you wouldn't get from a team that was like all the same,
It's kind of like that saying,
Yeah.
the more diverse the forest, the
Yeah.
healthier the ecosystem.
Yes,
You're
yeah.
creating this like richer, more resilient project environment just
Yeah.
by embracing those differences.
Yeah, I love that.
And I mean, it's not just about the project itself, right? I mean, working on these international projects.
It can be so enriching, personally and professionally.
You get to experience all these different cultures.
Firsthand.
Yeah.
Broaden your horizons. Build relationships with people from all over the world.
It's almost like a master class
It
in
is.
cultural intelligence
Yeah.
and adaptability.
Absolutely.
Not to mention the career benefits, right? I mean,
Okay.
these days,
Yeah.
having that international experience on your resume,
Huge.
that's gold.
A huge asset.
Yeah.
Because companies are looking for people who can navigate these cultural differences, manage global teams, think strategically across borders.
Yeah. And managing an international project.
You prove you can do all of that.
You've ticked all those boxes.
Yeah.
It's like a passport to all these new possibilities.
It is.
Okay, so we've covered the challenges, the essential tools, and even some of the amazing rewards.
We have.
But As we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to hear from you, listener.
Yeah.
What's resonating with you?
Yeah. What are your takeaways?
What new insights have you gained about the wild world
The wild world.
of international project management?
And how are you going to apply those insights
Yeah.
to your own work? What steps can you take
Yeah.
to improve your ability to manage these kinds of projects?
Because this is just the beginning
Yeah.
of your journey into this fascinating world.
Right.
Keep exploring, keep learning, keep pushing those boundaries.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Oh, there's so many. Think about the exposure to different ideas and perspectives.
Yeah.
When you bring together people from diverse backgrounds, you unlock a level of creativity and innovation that you just wouldn't get from a homogeneous team.
So it's like that saying, the more diverse the forest, the healthier the ecosystem.
Yeah.
You're creating a richer, more resilient project environment by embracing those differences.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just the project itself.
Yeah.
Working on international projects can be incredibly enriching on a personal and professional level.
Oh, for sure.
You get to experience different cultures firsthand,
Yeah.
broaden your horizons, and build relationships with people from all over the world.
It's like a global masterclass in cultural intelligence and adaptability.
It is.
Not to mention the career benefits.
Oh, yeah.
In today's interconnected world, having that international experience on your resume is a major asset.
Huge.
It's gold.
It's a huge asset.
Yeah.
Because companies are looking for people who can navigate these cultural differences, manage global teams, think strategically across borders.
Yeah. And managing an international project.
You prove you can do all of that?
You've ticked all those boxes.
Exactly.
It's like a passport to all these new possibilities.
It is.
Okay. So we've covered the challenges, the essential tools, and even some of the amazing rewards.
We have.
But as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to hear from you, listener.
Yeah.
What's resonating with you?
Yeah. What are your takeaways?
What new insights have you gained about the wild world
The wild world.
of international project management?
And how are you going to apply those insights
Yeah.
to your own work?
Yeah.
What steps can you take to
Yeah.
improve your ability to manage these kinds of projects?
Because this is just the beginning of your
Yeah.
journey into this fascinating world.
Right.
Keep exploring, keep learning, keep pushing those boundaries.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Oh, there are tons. I mean, think about the different ideas, the different perspectives you get
Yeah.
when you've got people from all these different backgrounds coming together.
Right, because everyone's bringing their own unique experiences to the table.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you end up with this level of creativity and innovation
Yeah.
you just wouldn't get
Yeah.
from a team that was all the same.
It's like that saying, the more diverse the forest, the healthier the ecosystem, right?
I love that.
You're creating a much richer, more resilient environment
You are.
just by embracing those differences.
It's so true.
And it goes beyond just the project itself, right? I mean, working on these international projects, it's
so enriching.
got to be so enriching, right? Personally and
It
professionally.
really is.
You're getting to experience all these different cultures firsthand.
Yeah, you're broadening your horizons, building relationships with people from all over the planet.
It's like a masterclass
It is.
in cultural intelligence
Absolutely.
and adaptability.
Yeah, and not to mention
Yeah.
the career benefits.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, in today's world,
It's huge.
having that international experience on your resume, that's gold.
It's huge. It's huge.
It is a huge asset because companies are looking for people who can navigate cultural differences,
Of course.
who can manage global teams, who can think strategically across borders.
And if you've managed an international project,
You've proved that you can do all of that.
you've ticked all the boxes.
does.
It's like a passport to a whole world of new possibilities.
It is.
So we've covered the challenges, the tools you need,
Yeah.
the things that make it uniquely demanding, but also incredibly rewarding.
So rewarding.
As we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to turn it over to you, listener.
Yes, we want to hear from you.
And what's resonated with you? What are your big takeaways from all of this?
Yeah, what new insights?
About this wild world
The wild
of an international project management.
And how are you going to use those insights, in your own work
Yeah, what steps can you take
to improve your own ability,
to really up your game
to up your game?
when it comes to managing these kinds of projects?
Because this is really just the start
This is just the beginning
of your journey.
of your journey into this fascinating world.
So keep exploring,
Yeah.
keep learning, keep pushing those boundaries.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.